I'd heard this film for a couple of years now, and it was only just recently that I actually watched it. And man, is this an amazing, amazing horror film! And it's called The Babadook. The Babadook is a film which can have two sort of meanings to it, really. The trailer really portrays it as a monster movie where a mum and a son are being haunted by a monster called the Babadook that they discover through a book which seems to appear out of nowhere, which is very strange. But the other meaning to it is the fact that it's a woman dealing with the grief of her husband dying, and the fact that not only did he die, but he died on the day her son was actually born. So as a result of that, every time he has a birthday, it just reminds her of the death of her husband. So understandably, she doesn't really feel like celebrating someone's birthday, even if it is her son's, because it just brings all that grief back again. And it's basically about her struggling to deal with that grief and eventually starting to lose her mind over it because she can't get over that grief. She can't move on with the rest of her life. And it's starting to harm herself mentally, and she's starting to harm others around her as well. It's an amazingly shot film. For a film that's done by a first-time director, and the woman who plays the mother, that's her first film as well. It was an incredible performance. It doesn't resort to cheap jump scares like a lot of horror films do. It's got a really dark atmosphere and it's genuinely creepy at times. And I just love it. It's just one of the best films I've ever seen. Never mind one of the best horror films, it's one of the best films I've ever seen. So to dig a little bit deeper into the film very much portrays itself as a monster movie from the trailer, as I say, but when you dig deeper, you do get that meaning of grief. And spoiler warning, but essentially what ends up happening is she just starts to lose her mind, and she ends up harming a dog. She ends up killing the family dog, which is a horrible scene to watch. There's even a point where she completely loses all control and she tries to strangle her own son as well. And it's at the sort of nearer the end of the film where she's finally able to sort of confront the metaphorical Babadook and sort of release and scream it away sort of thing, and finally be able to move on from the grief of it. Not forget, but move on from that initial shock and grief that she's had over the years and be able to move on with the rest of the life. And the end of the film as well, there's a point right near the end of the film where you see her go down into the basement with some worms for something, and you realise the metaphorical Babadook is not actually gone. It's basically a sign that grief will always be there and you can never get rid of it, but the sort of feeding of it is her way of keeping it under control. It's that sort of very metaphorical way of saying she's learnt to deal with her grief and control it, but she'll never forget and she'll never fully get over what went on, which is completely understandable. So yeah, massive spoilers. I've essentially spoiled the film, but yeah, I did give you a warning and I really wanted to talk about this film because it honestly is just one of the best films I've seen in a long, long time, and I'm so glad I finally got to see it.